friend, as you can see if you're watching TV, my cup of tea is missing. My producer ameenda kunichomea. Do you know what kuchomea chai is? If you've never drunk chai in a kiosk, you don't know what kuchomea is. You know, when the tea gets halfway and now it's getting cold, you tell the waiter, ebu nichome, hiyo ni chai sosa. So I've gone to Bichomewad, Eden Tea, the finest garden tea, Gashai, as I like calling it. If you've never tried Eden Tea, my friend, I'm here to remind you again, try it. It is the finest garden tea. You will not regret it. Eden Tea is reminding us in this season, mambo na COVID-19, umesikia kuna shortages, second dose. A lot is happening around this pandemic, but we have to take personal responsibility. We are keeping ourselves safe and being our brother's keeper is concerned. Watu wavae mask. Na mask si ya kufunika ndevu. Kama upendi ndevu zako vile zinakaa, nyoa. Si ya kuzifunika na mask. The mask is for the mouth and the nose, my friend. Let's maintain interpersonal distance. Let's wash our hands. Let's sanitize. Let's do all that we can, you know, as we continue to work together to defeat this pandemic. A reminder, Eden Tea comes to you in several flavors. Eden Green Tea, Eden Lemon Tea, Eden Premium Tea, Eden Purple Tea. Hiyo nimeenda kuchomewa ni Eden Premium Tea, my friend. Utaiona tu ikikuja hivi karibuni. So try it out. Available at the supermarkets at an affordable price. The clinic is on. Bench nimeweka nje. Kama kawaida, nimeisanitize. Na leo nimewakia stickers. Ndiyo mkaya 1.5 meters apart. Today we want to ask the question, is it better to build or is it better to just buy a ready-made house? Which one would you go for? Interesting comments already coming through. I've got two wonderful guests who will help us look at both and look at the pros and the cons of both. First of all, I have got Tim Kipchumba. Tim Kipchumba is the co-developer at Alkira Residence. Tim, how are you doing?
Good to meet you. Good morning.
Good morning. Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
Naona uko na ndevu. Do you hide your beard with a mask like some people do?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Karibu sana, my friend. Good to have you on board. We also have Maggie Masharia, property consultant at Palm Golding. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I'm getting quite a number of responses to this question. And majority of the people are saying, building. Me, I have to build. Yeah, that way I can be in control of the design. It's cheaper. And I'm wondering, okay, let's get into it and find out. You know, one of the first things that many people would consider on whether to build or to buy is the cost factor. Many of us just look at the bottom line and we think building is cheaper. So talk to us a bit about cost when we look at both sides. Maybe I'll begin by Maggie because my mom told me ladies come first.
All right. Thank you, James. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Actually, yes, as you said, cost is one of the biggest factors to consider when building or buying.
Yes.
It's either way. So ideally, it depends on, are you getting a mortgage?
Mm-hmm.
Are you using your savings? Or which other model of financing are you using?
Okay.
So that being a key factor, there are so many other things that come into play when you look at cost. If you decide to build, you have to look at all the professional costs that come in play.
Okay.
You have to look at the cost of land and the location. So it's quite a variant. It actually varies in so many ways.
You talk about location. How does location factor in where costing is concerned?
Location comes in if you're looking into buying a land or buying a house. The location really matters in regards to the pricing. How this affects the pricing is, if you're looking for very high-end areas, it gives you a higher price. If you're looking to nearby supermarkets, accessibility to schools, accessibility to CBD, all those come in and factor in the cost as well.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that, Tim?
No, I think it's true. Many people look at the margins that the contractors make.
Yeah.
So my primary work is construction. So we do construction for clients. And we typically target to charge about 30% margin. So when people say they want to save costs, that's really what they are saying. They are saying that instead of having to pay a contractor who then pays technicians, I might as well supervise and take the risk and the headache of supervising those technicians, and then I save that margin. That can be true if you have time. That can be true if you have a bit of knowledge. That can be true if you have trusted technicians. And so, yes, that's true. You could save some money. And 30% of a building of a home that would likely cost you, say, 10 million is 3 million. So if you save 3 million, that suddenly makes the cost of the development of your house or your property more affordable if you could manage the risks that come with you doing the work yourself.
Okay. Sometimes when it comes to building, one of the things I hear people say is that building may end up being expensive because, mafundi squeeze in wajuaji. You may end up building 3 houses and you're only thinking you're building one because they keep telling you the cost of this and the cost of that. And because that is not your field, you don't really know anything about construction. You're solely depending on them. As we say where I come from, watakupeleka bafu na wakuoshe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've seen that a lot, especially with people that are doing, like telephone building. Or you're building from abroad. You are in diaspora and suddenly you have cash you want to send back home and you have this dream of one day retiring at home. Honesty is a premium. And I think there are several things about our country, but one of them is it's very difficult to get honest politicians. But increasingly, it's also very difficult to get honest people. Maybe people are pushed to the limit. And so if you could get really reliable folks that you can trust, either to supervise, to store the material, to avoid theft, you could do very well and can lower costs.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, many Kenyans actually end up building for themselves.
Maggie, one of the arguments sometimes I keep seeing when it comes to the whole cost issue, people look at mortgages and they say mortgages are very expensive. And then after those 20 years, 25 years, the money you have paid, you could have bought like 3 or 4 houses. Talk to us a bit the cost factor and mortgages when one is thinking of buying.
When you're thinking of buying in regards to mortgage, first of all, you have to look at your financial muscle. Does the salary you currently have, do you think it's sustainable to run you through the entire 10, 15, 20 years of your mortgage? Look at the value of money now and in time to come. Look at the inflation rate. All those are things that you need to factor in when you're taking up mortgage. The interest rates as well. It all depends because some people get financed through SACCOs, others through banks. So, of course, the interest rates will definitely vary, dependent. But mortgage is a good way of getting financing for your home. But if you're able, perhaps, to have a certain deposit, a higher level of deposit, then it also makes it much easier for you to afford in regards to repayment of the mortgage you're taking.
Okay.
Yeah, and also of the housing that you want to take. I'm assuming in this case, if you're buying land, you either are buying land cash, or you're buying land through mortgage as well as the construction cost. Which should be factored in the mortgage aspect. Otherwise, ideally, if you're taking a mortgage, or rather you're being financed to purchase land, then I do not understand how you would be able to develop that and be able to repay the mortgage.
Okay. Sometimes when we talk about construction team, as we know, land huku kwa city, you can't, if you get it's very pricey, and so we are moving farther and farther and farther. I was having this discussion, I think it was last week, on one of my shows. It popped up, and somebody was saying, you buy a land na huko, Kitengela huko, karibu na Mbali. You build a house there, but you're working in town, you're working in Westlands. And so you've built your house, you've finished, but then you realize the practicality of that isn't working for you. The traffic you have to contend with every day, to and fro. And so eventually you end up trying to find somebody to rent the house, and you move somewhere near to where you are working. So talk to us about the whole issue of location and building that sometimes people fail to consider?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of research shows that people never get used to traffic. It's one of the most irritating things for couples, for kids, for families generally, is having to deal with 3 hours or 4 hours of traffic. And so it's a horrendous thing. And I think people underestimate that. I don't know any of my friends that has built out of Nairobi that is still living in the house they built in Rongai.
What?
Or a house they did in. I don't know any of them. Many of them have now moved back to town.
Wow.
And that's just because it's just too much. It's irritating. You don't even know why you're angry at each other in the evening, but it's because you've just been in traffic for 3-4 hours. And so I think it's really, really excellent that people delay having to build a house out of Nairobi unless they figure out a way of working out of Nairobi. I think what people should consider doing is potentially build property out of Nairobi for rent, and then that rent can pay for their house in Alkira residences. They are renting in Nairobi, so that until they are now able to relocate out of town, they ideally, really, you should have as much of your life as possible in the city. It's a higher quality of life. And that's my personal bias. But that is not true for everyone. Many people are like, no, I would rather be financially independent. And so they go out of town. And that makes the house a bit more accessible and a bit more affordable. You go to Ganguro Road today, or you go to Kilelesha, you go to Rongai, you get priced at a better. But then I really think that people have to be completely honest with themselves and say, can I really deal with that traffic? And try and experience. Visit people. You know, visit people in those places before you make that decision. Because the other thing that is very difficult when you build out of town, it's very hard to liquidate the property or to rent it.
Oh,
it's very, very difficult. It's harder to convert property out of Nairobi into cash. And so I generally encourage my friends, and I've taken this advice myself, say, okay, I may never afford a house in Nairobi. What I'm going to do, I'll build rental apartments in Eldoret. I'll probably generate 300,000 shillings. I'll spend 100,000 shillings of that money to rent a house in Nairobi. So that could also be a strategy, so that in your most productive lives, when you're still young and can work, and you have to work in the city, you have a better living. 4 hours every day is a lot of time. It's more time to bond with your son and your daughters. It's more time to explore other hobbies. It's more time to learn. It's more time to get a master's degree.
I like that. I like that. It's more time to get a master's degree. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Maggie.
I think he's captured it well. But as he said, when you're deciding to build, there are some people just build without the why. You need to have your why. What are you building? Because, for instance, if you're working in Nairobi and you go and build in Kitengela and you spend 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening on the road, I mean, there's a lot of time wasted in between.
Very true.
And also factor in the cost of that transport. If all that cost is taken into place, you'd rather have rented a house close by and save on all that and rent out the other place. If also, when you're renting it out, I think it would make sense if you're renting or building at a place where the rental income is able to facilitate the mortgage.
Yes.
Otherwise, you have to look at a break-even period, which ideally, for me, in my knowledge, I think ideally you should break even within 7 years, realistically. If it goes beyond about 10 years, to get return on investment on what. Otherwise, if it doesn't break even, then it doesn't make sense.
Okay. Shortly, we'll look at both sides and ask ourselves, okay, so what are the pros and cons of building, and what are the pros and cons of, doing your own construction? We're coming into that shortly. If you have any questions for my wonderful guest today, feel free to send in a message on 20316, SMS line. WhatsApp number is 0786316316. Or maybe you have lessons. Maybe you're one of those people that Tim is talking about. Maybe your Tim's friend, Ulijenga Rongai, ama uko Kangundo uko. and you're no longer living there, what lessons can you share with us that you have learned? Or maybe you built successfully and you're living there, what lessons can you share with us? Because it's all about learning from one another. Once again, 20316, SMS line, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. It is the Financial Clinic. Tujenge nyumba ama tununue? That's the question we are looking at today. Some of the comments coming in. Evelyn Miranja says, me, I would rather build the house than buy it. You haven't given us your reasons. Caroline Nauma says, I would rather build a house because I will build it on my own, in my own design. Making calculations, I think I will use the materials of my choice, and I think I will use a lesser amount of money. Solomon says to build is a process, but more economical. You can build at your own pace. It may take longer, but the goal will eventually be achieved. And then I have another message here. This one is from Phoebe, all the way in Nyeri. You say kujenga, because unaweza jenga most, depending on the weight of your pocket. And then she says, lakini mafundi, building is not recommended if you're not available to walk the process. That is so true. And then my good friend, the Reverend, how are you doing? Reverend Bernard Warui anasema, for me, building any day, because I am in control of the design, quality of materials to use, etc. The journey is also exciting and full of lessons. I must say it also saves some coins. Alafu unasema watu wakuja Kangundo Road. There's enough land and many options into town. My good friend, Aya, hook us up. Maybe we will come to Kangundo Road. To you, Tim, because you do a lot of construction, what are the advantages of building?
I think they've already said. Perhaps the first one is that customization. So these days, you probably saw the young man that was spotlighted to fame because he built a house on a lorry. So
yes.
It's a moving house.
I saw it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And now we're beginning to see, because of our millennium era, Generation Z, many people don't just want a home, they want something cool.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to build a retirement place, you want to make it maybe antique, you want to make it super cool, you want to use materials that are local.
Mm-hmm.
And so that also makes the product really cool. And if you have a really cool product, you can do Airbnb, you can do booking.com. So, like it's a home for you, so you might as well, build it to your spec. So customization, I think, is a really, really good advantage for building.
Mm-hmm.
But on your own. The other one is learning.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide to build, suddenly that 5-6 million that you spend, or 3 million or 2 million, becomes like a lifetime lesson. And that backbites people, and they end up, sticking to real estate for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires a little bit of headache, but that's really something that is worthwhile doing. We don't have all the money.
Yeah.
And because we don't have all the money, we all suffer from, actually, there are many factors that affect people's ability to create wealth or save wealth.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first one is myopia. You really cannot predict it. You can't see the future long enough. So for many people, it's better to just say, you know what, I don't have all the money, let me just begin, and then I go slowly, I build as I go. Because if you had to wait, to get all the money in order to afford or to qualify for a mortgage, you may never begin.
Mm-hmm.
And so people then suffer from inertia. Inertia is, the status quo is so strong, you're just unable to move because you're waiting for things to just be perfect. And things will never really be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is an advantage there for wanting to build yourself. Say, okay, I can learn, I can customize my product to meet the needs of my tenants or the needs of my family or my own needs. I can begin today. I don't have to wait until I qualify for a mortgage. So those are real good advantages. You can do it at your own pace, at your own schedule. And then for some people, it might just end up becoming like a really cool introduction to a new world of creating wealth.
Okay. I remember a friend of mine, we grew up together. One time he invited me, told me, Pasi, I'm building my own house. So you guys come and visit. And so we went to visit. And they were living in the sitting room and one bedroom. It was a 3-bedroom house. It's not complete yet. You know, everything is in the sitting room and one bedroom. The kitchen is half done, but it's in operation. You know, and a couple of months later, we got in touch again, and he says, you need to come. The bedrooms upstairs are almost done. It's just mos. Hakuna mtu ananikimbiza. I'm not in a competition. I will do it at my pace. And that really inspired me. But there are also advantages to buying. For people who like ready-made things like me, yeah, I'm the kind of person, siendagi kwa fundi kushonesha nguo. Naendaga kwa duka kununua nguo. Because I want to wear it today. Fundi ataanza kunizungusha. So Maggie, talk to us. What are the advantages of actually just buying?
The advantages of buying, actually, the very common and the most important one is that you have a ready house to move in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to wait. For people who are not patient, they don't have the ability to wait and walk that journey into construction. They are ready to find a house, and ideally within 3 months, they're ready to move in.
Yeah.
You have a better bargaining power, because ideally when you're buying, there is competition of other houses.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally you get a better bargaining power. And you also are able to choose a location, because when it comes to building, you may want to build near the city, but you find that almost all the vacant land has already been built.
Very true.
Ideally, you are able to get, if you're buying, you're able to get the location you need, and convenient as well. If you're looking near the mall, you definitely get houses closer to the mall. And like building, you may not be able to get that land. And of course, there is the issue of pricing as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can be able to get the pricing that you need if you have a budget in place, that is.
Okay.
And depending on what you or your family is looking into, you're able to get what you need and ready to move in. There might be a bit of issues here and there whereby everything might not come in as you want, but there's usually room of remodeling or upgrading what you buy. Yeah.
Okay. You know, I keep hearing about buying a house off plan. Can you talk to us a bit about what that means? And you know, I've had several people say they bought a house off plan, wakagonga ukuta. Things didn't work out the way they thought they would work out. So, what is this off plan business?
Actually, off plan is whereby you get into purchase of a home before it's constructed. You're buying the concept. This is like, I would compare it to insurance, life insurance, whereby if I tell you life insurance, I'm giving you a promise.
Okay.
You're not 100% sure that this promise will ever come to fruition. It all depends on the developer. What is their reputation? Do they have previous completed projects? Those are the things you look into when you're getting into an off-plan buying stage. And this is something that ideally would take about 12 to 24 months.
Okay.
Construction. Yeah, it goes with phases. And most recommendation we would give is that work with the developer. Be able to visit the site as often as you can, just to be able to see the progress.
Okay.
So it's a promise. I'm selling you a concept.
Yeah.
This is how the building will look. The worst part is, I will tell you this, the interiors will look this and this. But it's not guaranteed.
Oh.
Yes, because anything can change.
Yeah.
Remember, the price I'm selling to you an off-plan right now, looking at a case scenario of last year, this year, the COVID, the cost of material, if you're importing before COVID and during the COVID era, is totally. If I had sold to you a house for 12 million before COVID, definitely the price would go up because of delays in importation, the price cost because of transportation. There are so many factors that will affect the end price. So off-plan is good, but do know the developer you're working with.
Okay. I'm just wondering, Tim, what are some of the common pitfalls when we talk about building your own house? What are some of the common pitfalls that you have seen people falling into because maybe they had no prior knowledge, or they didn't plan themselves well, or they had misconceptions about building being like this, but it ended up being like this? Give us a few.
I think the primary one that is almost regrettable is to just have a bad design. I think that anyone that is building should invest a little bit of time to think through the concept of the design. Because then you can never correct that. You know, like if you have smaller kitchen, very tiny lounge areas, you didn't think about how people enter the room, how usable the house would be, it would be terrible. Because, you know, for just about, say, 100,000 shillings or even less, you can get really nice, cool, you know, architect, or you can even at least use a service that allows you to get plans that have already been thought of. That is really something that is worth investing. The other one is not budgeting. You know, like you decide that you really want to save so much that you don't even get someone that is knowledgeable to give you cost estimate. So I tell people in many cases, you can have a mix of both the advantages of buy and build just by having a very good design and having very good projections of costs. So, you know, so don't cut that much. Don't cut the cost so much that you don't get a good design and you don't plan very clearly the costs and the schedule or the disbursement of those costs. I think if people were to do that and then combine that with talent, you know, you meet people and say, you can have a really good supervisor and say, okay, I give you this target. If you manage to do this, you make this much money. And you become upfront. You become upfront and say, listen, I know it's going to cost me this much to buy the material. I know you're telling me the technicians will cost me this much. Why don't we work together? If we can achieve this number of man hours or this number of this much in labor budget, I will pay you this much right now. When you agree with someone like that, they have an incentive to help you achieve some of your goals. And I think that is something that people should worry about. The other one, of course, is just not to anticipate all the risks, because you know, there will be risks. There will be risks like theft. There will be risks like you know, just bad workmanship. So you really want to take keen interest. You know, like take keen interest. Because in many cases, a badly finished product costs the same as the one that is well finished.
Oh, I like that.
It's just terrible. Like it just costs you the same to buy the material and for someone to do a bad job. So what you really want to do is that if you can have time, I think building can be an excellent thing. If you really don't have time, then you can consider the possibility of actually even paying someone to be there. A little bit knowledgeable, it will cost you a little bit more. You know, if you are building a 10 million house, it's better to even spare half a million shillings to have a knowledgeable person in charge of at least the good finishes to begin with. You can buy the material, but at least have someone that can be in charge of the good finishes. That's what I can think of right now.
Okay. You know, I like what you're sharing because many of us in this country, I think I don't know whether it's our culture, you know, we always know somebody who can do it cheaper. And we always want to save an extra shilling. And sometimes we have the assumption that engaging a professional will be more expensive, and I want to save, and so I'll do the construction for myself. The plans of a house. Si bedroom ni hapa, choo ni hapa, sitting room is here, kitchen is there. What is so hard about that? Why do I have to pay thousands of shillings to an architect? And so we come up with our own drawings until we start constructing and we realize, hey, okay, we didn't think of this and think of this. Yes, a friend of mine was telling me, you know, the reason why we need ladies in our lives is unapata jamaa amejenga flats ziko sawa. And so they are taking you on a tour. And you're thinking, okay, oh, so this is the kitchen. Na hii ndio nini, hii ni bedroom, hii ni sitting room. Oh, okay. Na watu wataogea wapi? Bafu na choo ziko wapi? And then anajika na, oh, by the way. And they have already built the whole flat. And so I love what you are saying. I have a comment here that says some pitfall is one should consider the amenities near the house. For example, schools, hospitals, shopping areas. We have built a house, but when looking for a school, it was really, really challenging. That's a good one right there. I'm giving you one more opportunity to ask questions if you have any before we listen to some of the pitfalls that people are blind to when it comes to buying a house. Maggie will be sharing that with us shortly. 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. Thank you for tuning in. It is the clinic, financial clinic. To build a house or to buy a house, that's what we are looking at. We are hanging out with Tim Kipchumba. He's a co-developer at Alkira Residence. And we also have Maggie Masharia, property consultant with Palm Golding. Aya, niko na SMS hapa from Davy Smith. Nasema wewe ni fundi wa tiles in Nakuru. You say building is better because you will save. Utabakisha pesa za gashai. My friend, have a cup of tea. Waambie nitalipa nikikuja. Back to you, Maggie. What are some of the pitfalls or blind spots that people tend to miss out when they're thinking of buying a house?
We start with the journey of buying a house. What it all entails. You call me, you're looking for a house. You have to give me the location. What is your budgeting, please? That is already a constraint. You have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Then we have to schedule viewings. So you have to slot in time to come and do the viewings, either as a family or by yourself. If you're single, then yourself is a family. In most instances, both parties are not available at the same time. Those are constraints, all of them. Then we get an ideal house. Is the art of negotiation. You start to negotiate to get the ideal price.
Yeah.
If you have a good real estate agent with you, at least the journey becomes much easier because they are able to narrow down all the options available and give you custom-made what you're looking for. So it lessens the people. Ideally, you negotiate and get into the property you want, and we go to the closing stage. You have the closing stage. This is the house, you got it at the price you feel is right.
Yeah.
Now we start the house is already dated. It means it has a higher maintenance cost. You have to redo most of the things because I'm assuming this house has been lived in by somebody else. The appliances are probably worn out. That is another cost you get into. And then there is the aspect of higher insurance costs. An old house is definitely going to incur more because of the risk.
Okay.
And then also there is what do you call them? The fittings and fixtures, or rather the things that are used in the house are dated, meaning there is no efficiency in running. So of course the cost is also higher. So, and then there is also the aspect of too much repairs. Or you get what you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So ideally, you're buying into somebody else's concept.
Yeah.
As opposed to what you would want. But because you need something ready to move in, perhaps you don't have the patience to wait, then that's how you end up getting that.
Okay. As we finish, let's go back to location and talk about the importance of doing a bit of research and the history of the location, because somebody is asking here, how do you build in a swampy area? Saa zingine tunanunua tu kwa sababu ni pesa ngapi you buy, whether it is the land or whether it is the house, until the heavens open and you start thinking, how did Noah build the ark again? Maybe we can get some advice from him. So the whole issue of location and the weather and flooding, what do you have to say about that, Bwana Tim?
I think it's really challenging. It's a challenging thing to actually figure that out. Very early on, I did some wheat farming, and the hardest lesson after losing about $7,000 was that you should always visit Narok when it's dry.
Okay.
When you go and it's green, you can't tell that Narok can potentially get you into trouble. That's much harder now in the cities because a lot has changed. You can even barely tell where rivers used to cross and all. And so I think it's just better to sort of take time, look at the drainage around, look at services that are nearby. Maybe potentially take time so that you can see the same location when it's raining, when it's not raining.
Yeah.
Because even ideal land sometimes can get you into trouble just because people down the road have blocked. They have blocked the drainages. People have built on the riparian down the road. So even if you are out of the riparian, even you yourself, you might not be necessarily involved. So I think just time, a little bit of investigation, interviewing people that are closer to the place where you are meeting. Get to know the chief, get to know the MCA if it were possible. Get to know people in the community you are likely to locate in, whether you are buying land or you are buying property.
Yeah. Because
that might just be the only way, honestly, that you can tell whether you are likely to be in a location that is fantastic. That said, location is absolutely critical because land is a function of improvement.
Yeah.
You are always buying the possibility that one day the property can potentially make money. And there are 5 ways to make money in real estate. One of them that almost everyone knows is appreciation. And appreciation is just a function of, services around, the community around. What will appreciate is the community. What will appreciate is the neighborhood. What will appreciate is the services near you. It's not the house.
Yeah.
It's the community.
Yes.
It's where you're selling yourself to. It is the proximity. And the other one is generally appreciation will be the greatest source of wealth.
Okay.
Really.
Okay.
So as a result, it's absolutely essential that if you're buying land or you're buying property, you really investigate and say, okay, where is the town likely to go? Where is the city likely to go? Where are people leaning towards? Where is infrastructure coming up? People that bought Thika Road just before Thika Road built probably now are sitting on 10 times their investment.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't think you can ever go wrong buying.
Okay.
If you buy at the right price, you make most of the profit buying at a certain price, and so that anything over and above that is potentially a source of wealth for you.
Okay. Tim and Maggie, thank you so much. Unfortunately, my time is up, but thank you for your insights and in your wisdom. I believe kuna mtu amesaidika mahali as they were listening to this conversation. I hope we had more time to keep going, but maybe next time. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
I'm out of time for today, my friend. You make up your mind whether you will buy, whether you will build, or whether you'll keep renting. The choice is yours. That's all the time we have for the Financial Clinic today. Have a great day.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.